Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Free in Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dukeman. And this week, I wanted to talk to you about our self limiting beliefs and things that are holding us back from getting the help that we need. So, essentially, we want to figure out what we need to do to clear the way to healing. How do we clear that path? So, first, we need to talk about things that we're holding on to. And we all have those. And some of those is just being willing to let those things go. And some of those things are fear. There's a fear of the unknown because this is something new. You're stuck in a place. And even though you're miserable in that place where you're at with your mental health, you you know it because you're there. So there becomes a sense of comfort in that misery. And the fear of the unknown of the treatment, because you've never been through the treatment, whatever type of treatment modality you tend to that you would go towards, it's unknown because it's new. And there's always a fear of the unknown. There's often fears of like a thought of unworthiness because we don't think that we are deserving of the help. We don't think that we're deserving of anything better than where we're at that particular time. Now, it's important to note that you are worthy, obviously, and anybody who has been in that space knows that they felt that way too. A big one is not allowing others to help. For me, especially, that was where I was. I never wanted to let anybody help. It didn't matter what it was. And if anybody asked if I was okay, like, oh, you don't seem quite right at all. He's just like, nope, I'm fine. And we tend to do that and just say, no, I'm good, make up some excuse when in reality we're not okay, but we're unwilling to talk about it. And it's uncomfortable to talk about it, and that's understandable. And sometimes it's the hardest thing to talk about with those that are close to us, with close family, with close friends, and people that we care about, and that because we care about them and they care about us, we have this fear that they're going to judge us, that that we will be judged harshly because of our condition, and that's just not the case. But even at that, there's so many resources available that if you're uncomfortable talking to a loved one because of those things, there's no reason to not reach out in some other way, even just to set up that appointment with a counselor or a therapist or uh, someone that you are comfortable talking to. There's helplines out there that you can call. There's all kinds of opportunities to get the help that you need to at least talk about it with somebody if you're willing to take the steps. And you need to be willing to take the steps. Um, Another thing, especially for men out there, is the ego. The ego is huge. And I say especially for men, but women are prone to it too. But we let our ego get in the way because we don't want to be perceived as weak or broken or sick or any of the stigmas that come along with it in our mind. And I'm just here to tell you that in reality, you're not sick. You're not broken. You're not you're not messed up. You're not anything. You're human. And as humans, we all go through things that are hard to deal with at times. And as humans, we go through these transformations. We get into these spaces with our mental health sometimes that are dark spaces where we find a hard time dealing with something, some traumatic event that we've seen, or just depression, any number of things. But we're human. It happens to all of us to some degree, some not as severe as others. And that is why it's important that we develop those tools that we've talked about in the past and that we'll continue to talk about. Now, a big part of that with the tools is determining what you want. If you know that you're in that space that you're in right now, or you have a family member or friend who's in that space, they need to decide exactly what they want. You don't like where you're at now. What would it look like to you to not be where you're at right now? If you could be whoever you wanted to be, do whatever you wanted to do, what would that look like? What would that life be? And get really clear on it and spend some time thinking about it. Even spend time writing it down. You don't have to show it to anybody, just write it down. You can write it down and read it to yourself out loud, read it to yourself quietly, and shred it, burn it, whatever you want to do afterwards. But write it down. It gives you an ability, it's an outlet to put those things on paper. And I actually recommend that you save it because you may want to look back at it at time to time. It might change. You may be able to see the progress that you've made or be able to go back and understand your why as to why you want to get better, why you want the treatment, why you want to not be in that dark space. And in that clarity, which may or may not take time, maybe you already know where you want to be. Maybe you know what type of person you want to be to your family or to your loved ones or to your partner, your spouse, your children. Just know that you can achieve those things, but you have to identify them. And through identifying them, only then will you be able to work on them and move towards that. So, how do we move towards that? A big part of moving towards that is setting obtainable goals. Those goals need to be simple tasks initially, things that you can get done, maybe daily ones, maybe 3 things daily that you want to get done. And don't make them some monumental thing. We're not trying to do anything extreme, just simple tasks that you can obtain to give you purpose, give you that sense of accomplishment throughout the day. This was hard for me because I found myself in a mode where I was very obsessive compulsive and doing so much. So to me, those tasks where I have to do the dishes, I have to help the kids with homework, I got to get the laundry done, I got to clean the house, I have to go feed all the animals, take care of the cattle, take care of the chickens, do all these things. And in reality, those were just tasks that didn't matter. So focus those tasks on you. 3 things that you can do for yourself every day. Maybe that's going for a 10-minute walk. Maybe that is just sitting out in the backyard. Maybe you have a hobby that you'd like to work on, but you haven't been able to make yourself the time to do it. Set aside some time to do it. Maybe you like to work on something, whatever that is. Set little obtainable tasks to at least work on it. It was explained like this. This is an easy way to do it. Say you want to work out, but you just don't have the gumption to work out. Go put your workout clothes on and then go sit on the couch and watch TV. Yeah, did you work out? No. But you know what? You got the workout clothes on. First step, right? Maybe tomorrow you do the same thing. Go get in the car, sit in the driveway, or drive to the gym, and then drive home. You got a little bit closer. Maybe the next day you actually walk into the gym. Walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes. Maybe do a couple sets of curls, whatever it is. Little incremental steps. We can't do these big things all at once when we're in a state of disrepair with our life and with our mental health. We have to take time to do things that seem really hard to us because of where we're at, but they're small, measurable steps. And we repeat those over and over and over again and get consistent at it. And sometimes that seems unbearable. That's why you need to just focus on today. And if it is something like you have a hobby that involves a day of time and you can't just set aside a day of time every day, maybe make it a weekly goal, but don't focus too far out. Because if we focus too far out, it doesn't give us a chance to fulfill those goals and it doesn't give us a chance to recharge our batteries. I wanted to touch on how we deal with the fear, how we deal with the feelings of unworthiness or just not allowing others to help us and our ego. So I think most of those revolve around not allowing others to help us. For a lot of us, especially those in the first responder world, military, We're used to being the helpers. We're used to leading the charge. So to be able to step back into that position where someone else is helping us is a very awkward place to be. It's not a place that we're comfortable in because we're seldom there. And for many others of you, that may be the same way. I know that I can only speak from my experiences and from the experiences of a first responder. The last place you really ever expect to find yourself is being the one that needs help. So we have to be willing to just allow that position to change from from care provider to patient, from rescuer to rescuee. And it's a transition. It's a change of thought. It's a change of direction. And we have to figure out how to comfortably allow ourselves to do that. So maybe some things to do would be to think about a time that you let someone help you. And what was that? You know, it's not always easy to let someone help you and to let someone in, and especially when it's close family members. But it's important that we do, even if we're not in a bad state of mental well-being and mental health. We need to let others help us because it helps them. They get fulfillment from it, much like the first responders out there get fulfillment from helping others, and the military folks, and the nurses and the doctors, and anybody who's in that phase. I mean, even parents, they help their children, and yeah, there's times we get frustrated with it, but we do it because we love it. We do it because we want to help them. We want to teach them and give them the opportunities to be comforted and not feel sad, not feel angry. All those things, right? Including caring for the sick or somebody that needs help in an emergency. We do that because we want to help. So when someone tries to help you and they offer that help, they reach out that hand and extend that help, you're not allowing them to fulfill that desire to help by not reaching out and accepting that offer. And I recognize that that's hard, but we have to do it. And even if it's not a loved one offering to help, we have to be willing to reach out to someone if it's not someone offering us for help. We have to be willing to reach out. And in doing so, that allows someone to help us. And that brings them joy. And that's really what it's all about, is we want joy in our own lives. So if someone can gain joy from helping you in your darkest moment, don't you think that maybe it would bring a little bit of joy to your life? And a big part of that's going to be letting go of the fear of what will happen, what will they think. Most time people have a pretty good idea of what's in your head and how you feel. Not always. Most people are scared to say anything because they don't trust themselves. They don't want to offend you. They don't want to scare you off. They don't want to ruin a relationship. But those that offer help, they know. Most likely because they've been there. Most likely because they've experienced something similar in their life. So this isn't the first time they've seen this. So let go of that fear. Let go of the unknown and the worry and the panic of what others will think. Just reach back for the help and accept it. You're worthy of it, which obviously brings me back to the unworthiness part. We feel unworthy because we've isolated ourselves due to the disassociation that we feel when we're dealing with heightened anxiety levels, depression, post-traumatic stress, any of these other things. We disassociate from life because we turn everything inward, trying to shut out the world because we're overstimulated. We have become hypervigilant to our surroundings. So little things set us off, whether it be noises, lights, people, could be any number of things, a visual thing that you see. that reminds you of something. So, because we've set ourselves up to that where we disassociate, we feel unworthy because we feel alone. And we feel alone because we have allowed ourselves to isolate and become alone. We've self isolated. Now, it's a hard one because we feel alone, we feel like no one cares. Then when we offer it, we immediately reject it. And all we're doing is hurting ourselves more. And that, my friends, is our ego getting in the way. When we allow our ego to get into the way of healing, we're actually physically putting up a barrier, the barrier of the ego, saying, like, nope, I'm strong, I'm good, I've got this. Those things don't bother me. I don't have a problem. Yeah, that's other people that have to deal with that, not me. In reality, we're all affected by things that we see in life, things that are hard to get through. Mental health affects everyone. It's how we choose to deal with it. Some people are built differently where they just don't see as many events that are traumatic, or what they do see, they're able to very much process very quickly. Maybe it's an isolated thing. Others, it is a lifetime of traumatic events or just a constant bombardment of one event after the other. And they compound, and that makes it more difficult. So if we can set our ego aside and admit that we're not good, we can start to develop the help that we need because we're allowing ourselves to be helped. We're opening that door and allowing others in, the door that we've shut ourselves. We've locked that door on our own. No one else did that. No one else put you into this prison that you feel like you're in, into this dark space. But you're the only one who can let yourself out of it. But you have to choose, and you have the keys. The tools are available, and there are many others out there willing to help. And for those of you that watch or listen to this that have family members that suffer with depression or anxiety or any of these things, just know that your best recourse, because you can't force them, but your best recourse is to just love them. Just sit with them and love them and be open with them. And do that with your whole heart. Even in my darkest moments, I could tell who the people were who genuinely showed me love versus what I perceived or saw as just the person that felt like they should maybe say something but didn't, or the person that once they found out said they wanted to help, asked if they could help, but it was obvious that they really didn't want to. And that was no fault of their own. They're just not equipped with those tools. I wasn't equipped with the tools. That was why I was in the space that I was in. And anybody who's in that space right now, you're just not equipped with the tools yet. So let's go out and get equipped with the tools. Now, the fear of the unknown. So much of it to me was the fear of the unknown. I couldn't see past today, which made it hard to do the other things that I've just talked about with setting up little goals and basic little tasks and things that you can do for yourself to fill your cup. Because at that particular moment in time, we may just not be equipped to do it. But it's important that we try to establish something that, like, if there was one thing I could do today that would actually make me feel good and that was actually good for me, what would that be? Just the littlest thing, what would it be? And maybe it's not like a life-changing thing, but maybe it's just you like to drive down to the beach and watch the waves. Maybe for lunch tomorrow, you're going to go to your favorite taco place instead of bringing a lunch to work. Whatever it happens to be, just those one things that bring you a little satisfaction and bring you a little joy, that you're able to pour something back into yourself without worrying about others. And as we continue to talk about the fear of the unknown, it's important to note that if you've watched this podcast or listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that you're not the only one who has experienced these things. Virtually everyone who comes on to this podcast has experienced these things. They've experienced the traumas. They've experienced depression, anxiety, hypervigilance, post-traumatic stress. They've lived it just like you're living it. But they went and got the tools to fix it. They accepted the help that they needed to accept. They acted on accepting help versus self-harm. Now, in order to do that, you just have to take action, take the first step, but recognize that many others have been through this. Many, many more than have ever been on this podcast have been through it. The ones who have come on this podcast have just been willing to share their story. And they've been willing to share their story because they desire to help others to get through what you're going through. Which also brings up the fact that you are always welcome to contact anybody who's been on this podcast, including myself, and they will all reach out. They will all answer back. We're all like that. These people are not strangers to me. These are people that I trust that are willing to help, and not only willing to help, but desire to help. And it's so important that we accept the help that's there. Because someday you may be sitting here sharing your story of how you learned to thrive and overcome the hardest time of your life. Because you're not alone. You have the tools available to you. You just have to choose to accept them. And I hope that everybody will choose to accept them. There are so many wonderful resources out there and so many modalities out there for treatment and options that are new, emerging science, and such great things that there's really no reason not to try it. I pray that everyone out there who watches this that's in that space will try it. We'll try something. We'll reach out and extend their willingness to get help. Accept the offers that come from those who offer to help you. And do it with love, guys, because others love you so much and you have so much more value in your life than you know or that you can see right now. It's shrouded in darkness, but it's there. You just have to get to a place where you can shine the light on it and let it be seen. If anyone needs anything, reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, through the email on the podcast. And I'm more than happy to help, guide you, direct you in any way that I can. Also reach out to anybody who's been on this podcast. They're very, very willing to help and actually hoping that they can make an impact and help others who are going through what they've been through. I hope you guys have a great week. Please join me next week for another episode of Freeing Your Mind podcast. And we'll see you soon. Love you all. God bless.